So with all of this and managing all these projects and everything you're doing, how do you find time now for another activity you're doing, and that's officiating soccer? I'm Joe Seamandel, and this is Raven Conversations. And today I'm joined by an extremely special guest for myself. He was my first company commander in the Guard when I first got in the Guard in 2002. Colonel retired Adam Iwaszuk. He's now Mr. Iwaszuk. He's been the director of our Construction and Facilities Management Office for quite a while now, as when you were at Title 32 and now to Title 5. Like I said, retired guardsman, retired as a colonel. And you also officiate college soccer. So you hold many titles. And, sir, I appreciate you coming on and joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate the opportunity to entertain whatever questions you guys are looking for me to answer. And
so intro and background on yourself.
So I'm mostly native Washington State resident. Was born on the East Coast, but grew up here in the Puget Sound. Went through in the Kitsap County, Port Orchard area, grew up, went through high school there, and then went off to college into New Mexico Military Institute, and then follow on to that where I got commissioned as a second lieutenant, infantry officer. I then went to Central Washington University, where I eventually met my wife to be, and got my undergraduate in accounting, and then was in the Guard at that time. After graduating from New Mexico Military Institute, was an active member of the National Guard and did for the next 30 years, and retired after 30 years of service requirement as an officer. Retired in 2023.
Mm-hmm. So how long have you been at the CFMO's office for?
So I joined CFMO in 2005.
Okay.
I was a captain at the time, and I was the resource manager. It was the first position or job assignment in that directorate. And so I've been there since 2005, and I've held several different positions subsequent to the resource manager job, and then eventually became the deputy director, and then I became the actual director in 2014.
Yeah. So one question I think I always had is, how does an infantry officer become the commander of a combat engineer company in Bellingham, Washington?
Yeah, I don't know how that worked out either, other than Lieutenant Colonel Coffey at the time was the battalion commander for the engineer battalion, and he was looking around trying to find someone who could come in and manage that unit, Charlie 898. And several people gave him my name, and I had never met Lieutenant Colonel Coffey, and I got a phone call, was asked to do an interview, and was offered the opportunity to take command. So I said, "Sir, I'm not an engineer. I don't know anything about engineering. My dad was, but I'm not." He says, "Don't worry about that. We'll teach you on that. I need someone to manage personnel and training schedules, and we just have a lot of challenges that we need to get addressed." So that's how that kind of developed. And then about 2 years later, or a year and a half later, we mobilized to Iraq.
Yeah. So how did you learn about the Guard? It's always a question I like to ask people, because I think we all have a different Guard story. So.
Sure. So as I mentioned earlier, I grew up in Port Orchard, and Port Orchard was, when I was a kid, was very pro, and they still are pro-military, but every 4th of July, the parade, small town Port Orchard would have a parade, and there would always be a presence of the National Guard coming through on that parade, and it was always neat to see that. And I actually lived just up the hill from where the Port Orchard Armory was, when they'd always had tanks there. But the parade would always have Humvees come through on the parade. So I learned of it as a young child, but I didn't really ever think I would be in the military or join the National Guard. And it was probably during the end of my first year, starting my second year of New Mexico Military Institute, that I learned that my desire was to become an accountant and become a finance officer. And I was told that that's not going to be possible in active duty. I had a guaranteed active duty scholarship, and I was told I would not be able to do that until I'm a captain. And I was like, well, wait a minute, I'm not going to make captain for several years. Mm-hmm. So I started looking at different options, and they said, well, if you want to do that, you can change your scholarship to guaranteed reserve, and you could pursue an accounting career in your civilian career, and you can still be an infantry officer or whatever in the military, and then perhaps maybe in the reserves of the Guard, you could become a finance officer. So I changed my path and changed my scholarship to guaranteed reserve from guaranteed active duty, so that I could pursue that accounting desire, that finance world that I wanted to, and thinking I may one day become a finance officer, but I didn't. I went through infantry officer path and was able to attain the goals of being an accountant or in the financial world in the civilian sector.
Yeah. So how does this kind of lead you to becoming the head of our construction and facility maintenance office here on Camp Murray?
Well, so, you've heard many times from many people that money really drives everything. And if you don't understand the financial piece or don't know the ins and outs of the accounting, it's really hard to understand how the machine works, whatever that department or directorate is. And as being the resource manager, having coming to the military department with already accounting background from public accounting for a number of years, working for Boeing and Washington Mutual, I had the accounting skills background, but not necessarily the governmental accounting. So I just had to learn that. And once I learned that and was able to figure out what we were doing in CFMO and able to provide at the time, Colonel Doherty eventually became 1-star in our tag, but he was the CFMO at the time. And as it got better to know the numbers and the different MDEPs and the accounting part of it, if you will, the fiscal law, what we can and can't do, I was starting to get into recommendations of projects and recommendations of future planning and more than just watching the books.
Yeah.
So I was able to, open up the apparatus, if you will, on my vision of what I could help out with in the vision of our 25-year strategic plan. And that just gained more interest and more traction for me to eventually became the business manager there. And then, and then working with all the other directorates, the branches within the directorate, and then eventually becoming the deputy. And then in due time, became the director. So just was really focused on 25-year or long-term vision plans, because that's what it takes. Unfortunately, in the CFMO, we're always a future ops. I mean, we have current ops, obviously, but it takes 8 to 10 years before you can get a project, to develop.
Yeah. So that kind of leads me into this next question. And I think we've kind of highlighted what the CFMO is, what your kind of role is within the organization. But so for those guardsmen who are M-Day who have no clue, right? Sure. What is that your office does that really affects their kind of drill availability and stuff they do?
Sure. I would sum it up as readiness. So we're focused on ensuring that the soldier is prepared for readiness with the facility. So we need to provide the best facilities possible for them so they can do their training that they need to do at their home station, not only on drill weekend, but those full-timers, between drills. And then if there's any local response missions that we have to do, fires, floods, whatever that we get called upon for a state mission, it's not just drill weekend. Now it's a 2 or 3 weeks potentially operating, or a month operating out of their facility. So we're doing everything from, fixing simple replacements of broken toilets and showers and sinks to building new buildings. Mm-hmm. So most of our facilities are in an amber status. So instead of being green, which would be something new, or amber being slightly new, or red being bad, we're more in that amber red category. We have some facilities are in the black. We're trying to get those blacks to turn red or amber, and we're trying to get the red or amber to turn green. And then, of course, when we build a new building, that should start off as green. So we just have a lot of old facilities, around 63 years or so age is our facilities. We have like over 500 buildings, 23 some readiness centers, and a bunch of field maintenance shops and mates and CSMS and Utes and all these facilities that everyone's got. All the soldiers have different skill sets or jobs and requirements and mission, and we're just trying to do the best we can to support them with fulfilling their work orders and or programming for 10, 15 years out a replacement facility to replace the antiquated facility that they're currently in.
Yeah, and I think I really want to highlight something that your office has done, I would say, in the last 15 years. And Guardsmen 15 years ago, anybody watching, 15 years ago, we had some very old armories. I would say Everett was an old armory. Mm-hmm. Pullman was an old armory. Tacoma was 100 years old. Now you have, within the last 15 years, the Aviation Readiness Center, the Pierce County Readiness Center, the Information Operations Readiness Center, Thurston County Readiness Center, Richland, CSMS. And it's not just the new facilities. You've had Centralia remodel. Now we're in Snohomish remodel, Moses Lake remodel, Anacortes remodel. These things just don't happen overnight. How much work goes into making this stuff happen and really reshaping the Guard?
It's a lot of work, and it's a team effort. The directorate has several branches. We've got 7 branches within that directorate, and there's everything from future ops and current ops. So, we're trying to take care of the present, but also maintain what we have and then build for the future. So, there's planning and programming branch is focused on 10, 15, up to 25 years out, whereas our construction branch is doing current construction, or maybe 2 years out as they're planning for design or whatnot. We've got maintenance staff that's taking care of today's problems. The doors not working or lights not working, et cetera. The work orders that we get, about 500 a month. They're taking care of those immediately. We've got environmental that's looking at everything for future and current. Everything's got to be done. Everything's got to be checked out environmentally and meet all the requirements and codes and in order to get a project. Then you've got, of course, the funding part, state and federal. We have 2 different branches of that within our directorate. So a lot of projects require a state match. So we have to chase the federal funds and the state funds, and those bienniums and fiscal years don't align. That can be very complicated. So we have to map all this out 10, 15 years out to get something to, get all the stars to align, if you will, to get a project, whether it's a new project of new construction or it's one of those remodels like you named, like at Centralia. It took about 6 years to get the funding for Centralia, and we tried to time it to where we would do the remodel during the unit was going to be deployed. And we got fairly lucky on that, where most of the work was done while they were deployed, and they were to come back to a facility that was completed. So unfortunately, over time, the units that were there, who we designed the building for, were not the units that moved back in, but that may change in the future. So it takes a lot of work. It takes the whole team. It's not just the director. It's I have a vision, and I share that vision, and with the G3, the chief of staff, the CG, the tag, get these concepts. And now we try to get the last 2 years doing a real property planning board meeting where we actually have a voting process. So it's not just CFMO's ideas and CFMO's vision and CFMO's execution. That's not what I've ever wanted it to be. I've always wanted it to be a collective effort and a collective decision. And it wasn't like that 15 plus years ago, I don't think. There just wasn't, there were some attempts for that, but I don't think it was actually integrated. And that's something I've been trying to change over time and over the years. And we have, in the last 15 years, as you mentioned, our average age of facilities was around 63. We're now down to around 48, 49 years because we've divested of some of the old first and replaced those. So we've divested of Tacoma Armory, which you noted, and we built the Pierce County Readiness Center as its replacement. So we drop off a 100-year facility and we build a new, less than a year old, right, once it's built. Other facilities that you named, like Pullman or Everett, they were older facilities. We divested of those through selling them. And then we took that money that goes into the divestiture account, that revenue, which is all state funds. We then invest that into property, purchasing land somewhere for that future 10, 15 years down the road project. That's how we got Tumwater Readiness Center, and eventually will be Tumwater Field Maintenance Shop, co-located. And then we also got Richland Readiness Center. And we're trying desperately, we have been for 5-6 years, on North Bend, and we have a purchase sales agreement in for that. And that money came from divestitures or selling of facilities that were older. So NGB had a model of fix the worst first, and I didn't really agree with that. I came up with, I countered with replace the worst first. So yes, we want to fix what's bad and get it that black or red status facility to get it to amber or green. But it could take millions and millions of dollars. So for instance, Centralia was over a $6 million project. The first project that we did an overhaul on was at Wenatchee Readiness Center, and it was a first test pilot kind of process. And it took several years to get NGB to approve of that project, and we got the funding from the state as well, and we pulled that off, and it was great. Vastly enhanced that facility. And I was in that facility once as a company executive officer in the infantry battalion. So we put all, just kind of as a joke around, hooked up the defibrillator on that facility, and we shocked it. We put all new LED lighting in, new classrooms, carpeting, restrooms, showers, HVAC system, windows, drill floor, everything else. And we took that model as kind of a baseline. We used that for then Montesano, did the same thing at Montesano, new kitchen, new flooring, new lighting, classrooms, fitness room, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Then took that model in Centralia. And at that point, I started taking staffers from Olympia onto tours, trying to show them the ugly baby facility, if you will, that this thing is really, look how old this is, look how antiquated it is. This facility needs a lot of attention, and here's all the things we need attention with. And that would grab some attention and got traction on the state funding. And I was able to, articulate the same on the federal side with National Guard Bureau for the federal funding and show how much money the state is matching with or willing to match with the federal funds.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the bringing the armories, selling them, because I think selling an armory actually brings it some life, a second life. We've seen it with Olympia, Pullman, even Ellensburg. That armory got a second life, and
yes.
Just because the building is old and maybe antiquated for what we need, in 100 years later, it still has something it can provide that community.
Absolutely, yeah. There's several of those facilities that the community is acquired. Either an individual private business has acquired the facility, or a community has. So. Or some organization. So like up in Everett, a church purchased the facility and converted it into one of their West Coast regional churches. In Pullman, we had a private owner purchase the building and turn it into apartments and a hot yoga type studio with understanding in Camas that they've converted their project facility into something for the community as well. So and there's all sorts of other examples. Poulsbo. We've had a few, unfortunately, divest of that, not by choice, like Bellingham, where we were trying to get the license renewed and the port license released. The port would not renew the lease, and they never used the facility, and it sits empty. We've had the same happen to us at Geiger Field, where we had a facility where one of the 161 Infantry Battalion used to be headquartered at. We got them a new building in Spokane, which is great. But the old building that was divested was taken from us, and we're actually trying to get it back. But there has been, yes, a second life for those facilities. A good news story, the one in Olympia that we divested of, that and Puyallup at the same time to acquire funds to purchase the land for Tumwater. The Puyallup facility is going to become a future battalion fire response, firefighting battalion headquarters. They're going to most likely demolish the building and build a new fire station, but that footprint will be available for the community and betterment of the people of that town.
Yeah.
And then they're actually their plans are to have some type of artwork that shows soldiers handing keys to firefighters. I'm looking forward to seeing that monument get built one day, but the facility in Olympia turned into be a art studio to where people are working, people in the art industry are using that facility to create their own artwork and whatnot. The Tacoma Armory that was purchased has been now a lot of firms are using it for like law firms or smaller firms in the local Tacoma area are using that facility for its purpose. So they have not everything just gets demolished. There is a repurpose to a lot of those.
Yeah. So with all of this and managing all these projects and everything you're doing, how do you find time now for another activity you're doing, and that's officiating soccer?
Yeah. So it's a great hobby. It's something I've always enjoyed. The game itself, playing it. I played it when I was a child, and I started reffing when I was like 12 or 13, whatever the earliest age was, and did that for a few years until I got into high school and just couldn't handle the time schedule. Was too much with school and sports and whatnot. But soccer was still part of me all throughout my years of high school, and then playing in the collegiate level as well. And I never really had an opportunity to get back into the refereeing until 2019. And I think that what got me back into it was I had just completed war college after completed my MBA, and then I got my master's at the War College. I was like, okay, what's the next goal? I have time now. I have like lots of, after War College was completed, I had a lot more free time, and started getting back into playing the game. And then, quite honestly, just didn't like some of the officiating, didn't like the quality of. And I said, you know what, maybe I can be part of the solution. I can still play, but I can maybe help ref. So I chased the license in 2019, got my license as just regular grassroots referee. And I did not know, we obviously knew there's an MLS and there's, FIFA referees, but never had a vision of getting there. What I did not know is that there was a regional badge or a national badge, higher level within the referee United States Soccer Federation. So once I learned of that, within about 4 months, I think it was late 2019, early 2020, right before the pandemic, I learned about that badge and what it takes and what the requirements were. And it's 3 years as minimum as referee and all these courses you got to take and number of matches you have to officiate, and then you have to be assessed on them and pass all these assessments. And there's a lot of fitness tests, and there's all sorts of kind of like a military career path. You've got all these things you got to accomplish to attain that next rank. Very similar with the regional badge. And once I learned that was like, if you can get that badge, you can pretty much self-assign to any match that you want at the club level, not high school or college, but at the club level. And that was encouraging for me, or that was the carrot I was chasing, because when you're just a grassroots referee, you have to request all your matches, and you don't know which match you're going to get, and you don't know what your schedule is going to be. So you might have a match at like 9 a.m. and then you may not get another match till 1 p.m. and you're at the same location. You're stuck there all day. That's a waste of time. So I just pushed myself really hard to go through all the requirements to get the regional badge. And then the third year, which was the minimum time to meet, I met all the requirements. And what I did not know at the time, until I actually was issued my badge, I got this letter in the mail saying, congratulations, and it has the badge with it, the memo saying, congratulations, you've achieved the regional badge. You were one of 2% in the nation that has obtained this. And I was like, what? 2%? I thought it was like 10%. So, but once I got that badge, that was in 2022, I was able to start self-assigning to a lot more matches. I was able to get into a lot more competitive matches, higher level, ECNL, the Elite Club National League, both boys and girls, boys 19s, girls 19s, and so forth, which are full 90-minute matches. And there's a lot of pressure because everybody's watching, and all the parents have got a lot of money invested in their player, their child playing, and coaches are top tier. That's their career. Those coaches, that's their living, their career. It's not a hobby like for me with refereeing. So I think it was just getting back in the game, having some free time, seeing some officiating that I didn't really care for as a player, kind of encouraged me to get into it. And then once I got into it, it just was like, this is like the military. I just got to go. And I can pursue, and I did. And now I've kind of plateaued. Like I really can't get any higher, mostly because of my age. If you want to be a FIFA referee or national level, MLS, they're looking for the 20-something, younger than 30-year-olds to get in. Yeah. So I share that with people, and they're like, well, wait a minute. When I watch TV, they're all old. Well, yes, because they've been there for 15, 20 years. They got them in their late 20s, mid-late 20s. So they're not going to pick up a 40 or 50-year-old referee to join the national level or the MLS referee or FIFA. Yeah. So I've kind of got to the highest level I can possibly get, which I'm happy with. I'm good with where I'm at and the ranking, if you will, I have, and the ability to help out. And then I got invited to go to Far West Regionals 2 years in a row, which is in Utah, and Idaho, in Boise, and they had MLS referees there, kind of watching all the different referees from around the West Coast, the 13 Western states that go feed into Far West Regionals. And I got good evaluations or feedback, and I got approached by a few folks and scouted by a couple college assigners. So they gave me their phone number, contact information, stay in touch. And then when I felt ready, a couple of years later, I applied, and then I just this past fall, I got accepted finally into the collegiate level of refereeing, and not a whole lot of matches in my first year, but at least I've gotten into that level of soccer. So I do predominantly been doing high school for 4 years and club for 5, and then college for just 1 season. And I hope next year in the spring they do a lot of friendly matches for college. I'll be doing those, and then maybe in the fall next year I'll be more college matches. But I'm still helping out both boys and girls high school level a lot.
What's the most difficult part about being an official, especially on an extremely big field? I mean, soccer is a very big field.
What's the most important?
The most difficult.
The most difficult is getting the right angle, the right view for every call. Because 90 minutes, depending if it's a 90-minute match or an 80-minute match, depending on the age group, there's so much going on so fast. Every literally second there's something that the decision has to be or potentially has to be made. So you have to take in what you're observing, observing what's going on, the field play, and having an understanding of where the ball is going to go versus where it's at, and how a player's body mechanics are, and how they're going to, how they're moving their body is going to determine where that ball is next going to go, and that's where you need to be to make that call when there's a collision or what have you. So I think the most challenging part is, for me, fortunately, fitness is good. A lot of referees struggle with fitness. Mm-hmm. So when they don't have the good fitness, they just haven't been in the military arena like we have, where that was a key component of your success. Having the athleticism or the endurance to go through the whole match and cover the whole field gives you those better angles, gives you that better opportunity to make the right call. And if it's not the right call, at least it's the call that you have at the angle and the position in which you're in, because every person's angle or viewpoint have a different opinion on the call. And that's a lot of the training that we do as referees in pro shops, pro clinics I've gone to. We'll have 40 or 50 of us referees, and there's a small percentage of us that are regionals. But, okay, we'll show a video, and okay, who's got foul? Who's got no foul? Who's got yellow card? Who's got red card? And it's amazing. You'll, in the same audience, the same video clip, you'll have everything from no foul to red card. It's all about the different angles. And then you have to be prepared for the player or the coach or the fan that's going to respond, negatively, potentially. So oftentimes I don't run into that, but when you do, you remember them, and it's frustrating because it's like you're putting so much time and effort into something, and you really financially, it's not
There's
much
no benefit
money
to it. Yeah.
You're probably making just as much, if not maybe better, at McDonald's, at minimum wage, when you factor in the time to travel to the pitch, being there 30 minutes early, doing all the prep, doing the game, and then the after brief if you're doing with your team and whatnot, and then the travel back, right? So rarely do I just do one match. I'll usually go do 2 or 3 matches back to back, especially tournaments. We'll have just shorter. You can get 3 matches in a row in a couple, 3-4 hours, and you don't make much money, but you're helping the community. You're without referees, the players can't play. And typically at the tournaments and East Nile events, the parents and the coaches are they know their soccer really well, and they're really into it. It's emotional and passionate, which is fun, which is cool. But it's really, yes, it's nice to get some money for it, but it's really rewarding is when the parents or the coach or even the players come to you after the game and say, that's really, could you come out and do our matches? When I'm down in Puyallup and I've got a team from Snohomish that I've never seen before. Like, can you come up to Snohomish? We could use you up. It's really nice to hear those kind of compliments.
And you're growing the game too. I mean, that's the other piece. Supporting the game is growing the game in some way.
Yeah, absolutely. The players, I tell kids all the time that, when I played, your skill right now today is beyond wherever I was at your age. And I played at the college level. Mm-hmm. So the game has changed a lot. It's still not as popular as football or, other sports, but on the globally, it's the biggest sport in the world. But in the U.S., it's been growing. And to be a part of that as an official is fun. And getting to see the kids develop over the years. There's kids I've seen that were, I started in 2019 now. I'm seeing them 5 years later. I'm like, hey, I remember you and da-da-da. And like, how do you remember that? I said, well, you had this unique hairstyle, or you had this great type of shot, or there's something that sticks out different with them, and you get parents often that repeats it, and it's pretty cool when you're walking on the pitch and then you can hear in there, oh, I know this guy, he's good, this is good. That's usually the high school level. Yeah, I hear that. Not so much the club, because there's just so many teams of clubs, but you walk by the benches, or the stands before a match, and you can hear some of that. So it's rewarding. And you try to get every call right, and it's so hard to do that. There's no perfect game. There's no perfect referee. There's no perfect.
Yeah. So I think outside of the physical part you already mentioned, what's that? Is there some part of having been in the Guard for so long that has kind of almost assisted in reffing?
Oh, I'm sure there's some parallels there as far as quick reaction, taking in information immediately, digesting the information, and then making a decision quickly, which you have to do as an official. And I would argue you have to do that in whether you're a basketball official, football, pick a sport. It's especially physical contact sports. There's a lot going on in a small amount of time. So there's a lot of information you got to take into consideration. And I think that's the same in the military career, like with your soldiers. What's their background, what's their skill set, what's the mission, how are we going to accomplish that, how do we utilize these particular soldiers and that skill set and augment with others and maybe other units to accomplish a mission. And I think it's decision-making skills, digesting the information, and then have to be quick about it, because if you take too long to call a call, like in a soccer game, a foul, the game temperature goes up immediately. Yeah. As soon as someone gets clipped, kicked, pick a thing, injury, foul, and you don't call that, if you don't call it or don't call it in a reasonably quick amount of time, the players start to get doubt on you, and the coaches do, and then the fans will, and then they'll be all over you in a minute. And I've seen that happen to many referees. I'm a mentor within the referee organization as well, and so I try to help mentor the younger referees and hey, learn from me, but also learn from these other referees. These are the referees, and I rattle off their names. They're really good referees. You should try to get some games and matches in with them and watch them, and learn from them, and integrate what you like and what you see. And I think we did that in the military career as well. Right? We see leaders that we like in their skill set, and we try to emulate that. And I think there's a parallel there to refereeing.
Yeah. So you kind of already talked a little bit into the military piece, and obviously for you it's different, right? You get to work with soldiers all the time, but is there something, having not been in the Guard for a few years now, that you're just kind of missing or have missed a little bit?
Oh, certainly. Yeah. I've been out for only 18 months, and it's not going to drill weekends. People are like, well, how could you possibly miss drill weekend? Well, it's that camaraderie, putting on the uniform. There's something very special about that. It's very coveted. To wear the uniform and to serve your state, you serve your country. And, you do something like that for 30 years, and then you're literally forced out because you made colonel, and you've been a colonel for 5 years or whatnot. I was the Joint Chief of Staff at the time, Joint Chief of Staff of the state. And time was up. I'm done. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm still relatively young. I still physically fit, mentally sharp, capable, all these things, but I'm done. And I'm not quite ready to go. Even though I knew that time was coming, I don't think I really prepared myself enough for it to where I could draw that line. So I still miss it. I'm very, very grateful to have the job that I have at CFMO, because now I can still support the soldiers through construction management, which is very passionate about, trying to take care of our facilities to the point where it's a fault, to where when we don't get projects approved or certain funding doesn't come through, I take it personally and take frustration into it when I shouldn't. But it's just the way I'm wired, that I want to, and a lot of the staff is the same way. They're really not, they take it personally, but they're very focused on trying to take care of the soldier, our customer, or our state employees, all the different customers, Youth Academy, EMD, et cetera. And that connection, having been in the military for all those years and being the National Guard my entire career, military career, there's that passion there to continue to serve in that capacity or that role as a CFMO. And it's an honor to still have this job, especially to be converted to Title V. When we made that switch in 2018, I think it was a game changer, because now we have a lot of continuity in my staff, and we can teach and mentor and get years of return on investment, whereas Title 32, people rotate out, just like in Fortune 500 companies often, and you get this turnover, and then you lose that experience, that knowledge, and it's very expensive to rehire, and you lose the skill set. And when you're talking about facilities in a 25-year strategic plan vision, you have to reteach all that to a new staff. It's time consuming. If you have that continuity like we do now on our federal employees with Title V, the learning curve is only steep at the beginning when they first get in, and then it smooths out. And I think that's why we're getting a lot of success. And unfortunately, I don't think the federal budget and state budget looks very positive in the near future. But eventually, it'll work itself out, and our strategic plans will get funded, and we'll be able to deliver more better facilities to our customers.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say as we kind of wrap up, sir?
No, just appreciate you inviting me. I know you've been asking me for a while to do this interview, and I was just not quite ready yet, or didn't know what we're looking for, or availability of time. But no, I appreciate the opportunity, and very grateful to serve my entire career in the National Guard. 28 of the 30 years was with the Washington Army National Guard. Only 2 of those was out of state. And so now to be in this capacity as a Title V employee, serving and supporting our soldiers in our community, it's a great honor.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you coming on, sir. Truly, it's an honor for me to have you join us. If you like the video, give it a like. If you want to watch more about the National Guard, subscribe to the channel. If you have any comments or questions about what the CFMO does, or even how to get involved in officiating soccer, throw it in the comments. We'll make sure to pass it along. And sir, I appreciate you coming.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, we don't have enough referees. There's a shortage of referees. So if anyone wants to join what my kids call the Colt, let me know. Reach out to me.
Yeah. Well, thanks again, sir.
Thanks, Joe.